In the illustrious halls of the Galactic Concord, hushed whispers and sidelong glances trailed the human delegation like a persistent stain. Curvax, the Byraxian ambassador, could scarcely mask his disdain as the unassuming bipeds shuffled by, their soft, fleshy forms so grossly outmatched by the hulking masses of alpha species representatives surrounding them. "Have you studied the neurohistory files on these humans?" he hissed to his Orothian counterpart. "Such a primitive, frail species, a evolutionary dead-end persisting through sheer obsessive stubbornness." Sylrania's mottled cranial fronds undulated in an approximation of a shrug. "Low-level breeders, the lot of them. We've identified nothing remarkable in their compositional data. No heightened metabolism, no superior psychological faculties, just mediocre." Curvax's mandibles clicked with contempt. When he studied the files, he noted an interesting metabolic mechanism called adrenaline that seemed to provide a temporary boost to their cardiovascular and respiratory functions. A handy evolutionary adaptation, he supposed, but hardly extraordinary. Most intelligent species employed chemical triggers to modulate their body's vital systems during fight-or-flight situations. Then I suppose it's fortunate we've no need for a protracted conflict. The humans will capitulate and take their reserved place in the Concord soon enough. They simply lack the fortitude for a drawn-out engagement. Little did they realize that deep within the arid barrens of Cedra 7, the opening salvo had already been struck. Captain Erica Lamb's field unit was hunkered amid the cover of rocky terraces, watching the first salvo of plasma artillery streak overhead towards the human outpost. "Incoming barrage! Defensive vectors online! All units report compliance!" The words tasted like ash as the searing thermobaric blasts detonated in percussive waves all around them. Clouds of superheated shrapnel shredded across their entrenched positions as the outpost's multi-layered shielding struggled to disperse the onslaught. "We're cut off, and they've already breached the south perimeter," came the frantic report over Erica's comms. "Requesting immediate extraction and air support. We can't hold them." Static crackled where the transmission terminated in a sputtering roar. Erica's throat ran dry, even as the corner of her vision blurred with the acrid smoke of smoldering impact craters all around them. "Negative on extraction. I repeat, negative on extraction," she managed, her voice forcibly level despite the dread clutching her heart. "All units are to disengage and proceed to the fallback ravines. We'll have to make our stand there." There was no response over the open channel save faint, desperate screams rapidly choked into silence. She didn't need to witness the telemetry feeds to know the fate of those first casualties. All around her, the handful of surviving troops looked at her with the same harrowed resignation. Grabbing her sidearm, Erica waved them forward into the beckoning darkness of the ravines. They plunged into the narrow, winding crevices as towering shadows advanced across the scorched earth, unleashing volley after volley of superheated munitions that shattered like a meteor storm around their haven. For 30 interminable rotations, they barely clung to life in that hellish grotto, the oppressive heat searing their lungs, while their alien attackers methodically sought to outflank and overwhelm them. Weapons overheated and jammed, food and water rations were exhausted in the first cycles, forcing Erica's people to drink their own recycled fluids as dehydration took its grim toll. But still, they endured. By the time the siege was finally broken, the advancing infantry sweeping into their husked shelters found only tattered, semi-delirious survivors defiantly clinging to life amidst the corpses of their comrades. In that cursed ravine, Erica's unit had outlasted the worst any attacking force could unleash, their preternatural human endurance driving them to persist long after other species would have either triumphed or surrendered. And in the darkest stretches of that torturous vigil, Erica caught glimpses of something worse than death staring back at her from the eyes of her troops. A hollow, hollowed-out emptiness of beings who had transmuted every last vestige of pain, terror, and hopelessness into a reservoir of pure, merciless, enduring will. Curvax and Sylrania would come to realize the grave truth far too late, as wave after wave of primitive human combatants ground the Concord's vast military machine to a halt through sheer indefatigable perseverance. While their superior tacticians and soldiers fell back or burned out in that relentless crucible, something profound and terrible was being forged in the human souls. For though their bodies were indeed fragile and unexceptional, their spirits burned with the searing intensity of a billion-year-old stellar furnace. They would fight until their flesh was utterly consumed, and then fight on as glorified energy constructs if need be. The humans could not be reasoned with, could not be placated or cowed through even the most soul-crushing attritional bombardment. They would persist and endure through any hell the cosmos could unleash, until their indomitable, enduring wills finally overwhelmed any obstacle in their path. And in those clarifying moments of reckoning, as Kervax surveyed the sundered, irradiated landscape surrounding the Cedron ruins, he would come to understand with dawning primordial horror that this unstoppable, inexhaustible force of nature was somehow ingrained into the human species' very existential codex. Their obsessive refusal to ever surrender, to ever relinquish their sacred drive to endure and overcome at any cost, was hardwired into the primal crystalline matrix that catalyzed that race's consciousness. No amount of data, no number of dissections could have illuminated that elemental truth. To be human was to never, ever yield. No matter how hopeless the ordeal, no matter how staggering the toll in lives and suffering, the humans were, in the most profound sense of the term, the enduring ones. And someday soon, the fires of their determination would reduce the Galactic Concord's gleaming empire of subjugation to smoldering cinders.